So my guess is by now the found footage genre has kind of worn itself out a bit. What's up guys, Cam here coming at you with another movie review. Today I am doing Area 51. This movie came out earlier this year. It's directed by Oren Peli and stars Reed Warner. And it's about these guys who want to sneak into Area 51 and find out its secrets. Normally that would be kind of an interesting premise, but this movie doesn't execute it very well. The first thing I want to say about this movie is that it doesn't have a very good understanding of a narrative structure. There's a lot that goes on in this movie that's never really explained and never really referenced again. And when it does get referenced again, at that point you just don't care. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, this movie is not very good. Let's start with the plot though. The plot will have you interested in some points. There are certain sequences throughout the movie that will have you kind of hooked and will have you wanting more. But it's just the way that these plot points are explored that doesn't really do much for the story. Because this movie is kind of boring, to be honest with you. I'd say about 40 to 50% of the movie is just them hiding from stuff, walking around, not really doing much of anything. Driving? I mean, there's not a whole lot going on in this movie. And these characters, they're not really characters, they're just people that do things. There's nothing really unique or special about them, they're just people who have a camera that are recording what they're doing. And speaking of cameras and recording, something I noticed in this movie, as opposed to other found footage movies, other movies in the found footage genre have what's called the excuse, which is basically the reason why they're filming everything. You know, put the camera down. Well, I have to record because blah 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 blah. This movie doesn't have that. These guys are just recording everything they're doing, literally everything they're doing, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. They're just doing it just because. Like, these people are at a party and they're filming the entire party, and then their friend goes missing and they're filming while they're searching for their friend. I mean, there's no reason for it. Now, as this is a horror movie, how scary is this movie? Not very. It has a couple of jump scares, but they're false jump scares, as always. I mean, false jump scares are just plaguing the horror genre these days. Ah! Oh, it's just my friend. Ah! Oh, it's a dog. Come on. If you want to scare somebody, have real scares. False jump scares take all the tension out of the movie, and any suspense that's been built up to that point is just wasted. There are a couple of effective scares here and there, but they're scattered, and they're very few and far between, and by the time you get to them, it's just like, oh, okay, moving on. Something else I want to say is that a lot of the dialogue in this movie doesn't really come off as these characters having an actual conversation. It comes off as a little bit too expositional, as if someone actually did write the dialogue for this, which of course they did, but that's not what you want to see in a found footage movie. You want the dialogue to feel natural. You want to feel like these people are really having a legitimate conversation with each other, but you don't really feel that in this movie. It feels too expositional, it feels too structured, it feels way too convenient, really. Which brings me to the acting. The acting is actually not too bad. These actors do sell their roles fairly well. It's just that the roles aren't a lot to sell. Because like I said, there is literally nothing that makes these characters unique. And we're never really given any real reason as to why they want to break into Area 51. Why they want to do something so illegal and risk such hefty jail time and whatnot. I mean, we're not really given a reason for it. That particular plot point is never really explored. It's just, oh, my friend is acting weird. Oh, well crap, suddenly he wants to break into Area 51. Okay, I am in. That's basically the beginning of the movie. It doesn't make sense to me. And I cannot stand whenever something so serious is just glanced over so much. I want this plot point to be explored. I want to see why he wants to break into Area 51, but they never really tell us. There is but one bright spot to this movie, and I feel that it is the ending. The ending I actually thought was pretty effective and fairly convincing and believable. It's just there's a couple of things that lead up to the ending that are supposed to make the ending make sense, but they just don't, because like I said, there are plot points that are just not explored at all in the movie. They're just there. They're there for whatever rhyme or reason, and then moving on. It's going to lead into something else. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this movie. Is it a good movie? Not really. I mean, it's mediocre at best. You might have a good time watching it, you know, if you're watching with some friends and you got some popcorn and it's Halloween or whatever. You might have a good time with it, but just from me to you, I don't think it's a very good movie. It has its moments from time to time, but they don't really help the movie as a whole, really. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Area 51 a 5 out of 10. Well guys, spoiler alert, I will be talking about my top 3 favorite scenes out of this movie. I'm not doing top 5 this time because there's not a lot that goes on in this movie. Like I said before, a large portion of the movie is just them running around, or them breathing heavy, or hiding from something, and that's really all there is. So I can only grab 3 scenes that I want to talk about. Starting off with number 3, the friends interviewing people about Area 51. Now when this group of friends gets around the area of Area 51, they start interviewing some people, and the interviews are actually kind of fun to watch. They're well, not fun, but they're entertaining to watch, and they come off as actually kind of believable, the things that these people are saying. Talking about how the government is hiding stuff from us, and talking about how there's flying saucers in Area 51 and this and that. It actually comes off as fairly convincing. That scene was actually done particularly well. Number 2, breaking into the house. Now 2 of the friends break into the home of someone who is supposedly a worker in Area 51, and they have to break in to get his identification badge. And there's actually some legitimate suspense that's built up in that scene. Whenever they're creeping around the guy's bed, or when the one guy is hiding in the bathtub, I thought that was actually done fairly well, and the suspense was actually somewhat tangible. Number 1, the ending. The ending I actually thought was fairly effective. It shows the main lead character, named Reed, and someone they meet along the way named Yelena, and they've been abducted by the aliens that were housed in Area 51, and they're suspended in this flying saucer, completely white all around them, and the gravity turns off and they can't really move. The camera gets ejected from the saucer and falls to the ground. The other friend gets picked up by their third friend, and they get abducted too. I thought that scene was actually executed fairly well. I thought it was probably the most intense scene of this movie. It wasn't overly dramatic, it wasn't boring, it was just right for me. I thought that watching these people get abducted was probably the best thing ever. Partly because it was a good scene, and also partly because I can't stand these characters. Well guys, there you have it. Area 51. Like I said, this movie has its moments, but overall I wouldn't really recommend it to anybody. As always, I will see you in the next review.